have done exemplary changes in the financial inclusion scenario of the country, and now the new government is also adopting these two schemes for their financial inclusion initiatives under Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana or various other schemes of Government of India. So it becomes crucial to discuss about it, how this will be in the new system of governance, in the new government after 10 years of the past government of UPA. How these two schemes will be used by the new Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi. So, for discussing financial inclusion through DBT and Aadhaar and banking the unbanked, such a key issue, I invite some very important stakeholders of industry to talk about it for next more than 1 hour. There are people from industry and there are people from government, there are people from banks, and so it's a complete, it will be a panel discussion of complete industry, including some industry presentations also. So to start with this session, I invite Shri Rajesh Bansal, Assistant Director General, UIJI Delhi, on stage. Mr. Bansal will also moderate this session for us, and we are very thankful for you, sir, for accepting our request. And then I invite Ma'am Abha Anand, Deputy General Manager, Union Bank of India. I also invite Mr. K.V. Khullar, Deputy General Manager, Punjab National Bank. I invite Mr. R.K. Bhutani, Senior Consultant, CSE Governance Services Limited. And now we also have some leaders from corporate world industry. With this, I invite Mr. Ramesh Iyer, Managing Director, Mahindra Finance. I invite Shri Sanjeev Shriya, Managing Director, SmartChip and Syscom Corporation. So we invite you on stage. I also invite Mr. Rahul Modi, Managing Director, Adarsh Credit Cooperative Society Limited. I also invite Mr. Ajay Kumar, Head of Marketing, South Asia, Data Card Group. So before I hand over the session to Mr. Bansal, I request for to allow us for an industry presentation by a Data Group representative, Shri Ajay Kumar, and then if we can.
Respected panelists and ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ajay Kumar. I look after marketing for Data Card South Asia. So there has been a lot of discussion on the RuPay card issuance and financial inclusion. And Mr. Anurag Jain mentioned about the different functions of the entire ecosystem of financial inclusion, Jan Dhan Yojana, where he mentioned about there are different functions like bank account opening, to access to the remittances, access to credit, insurance and pension. Another component which he mentioned about technology. Technology is the most critical part of the entire ecosystem of Jan Dhan Yojana, and we cover the critical part of the technology, that is RuPay card issuance. So I am going to present a little bit on how RuPay card issuance can work out in the entire ecosystem of Jan Dhan Yojana. Bit of agenda about Data Card Group, who we are. Indian card market, I'm ex-banker, work for HSBC and Standard Chartered, so would like to cover on the card growth as well in India. Instant issuance of personalized card and its value to the bank. Proposed roadmap to issue RuPay personalized card in Jan Dhan Yojana. There are multiple ways to issue RuPay cards, to issue RuPay personalized cards, and I want to discuss that as well. So DataGuard actually is a US-based company founded in 1969 in Minneapolis, privately held, 2,000 employees, about 34 locations, have operation in 150 countries currently, and 425 plus patents in card issuance technology. DataGuard reaches that we issue 10 million cards per day, 5 million smart cards, and 35,000 passports per day. In the financial market, which is a key market apart from the government and corporate, we issue 90% of the world's financial cards. So in that sense, the DataGuard is a market leader in card issuance technology. Different kind of verticals we serve. One is of course financial, where a majority of the world's financial cards are issued on our platform, whether it's a credit, debit, prepaid, gift, loyalty, privilege. In the government sector, we have passports, driving license, voter registration, benefits card, NIDs, bank ID cards. On the corporates, or the third section, whether it's education or health card, or a transit, automated fare collection system, telecommunication, and a corporate security. So we serve all three major sectors of the industry. You see DataGuard in India, what we have done till now. We have been serving in India for more than a decade now. Now there are flagship project which we have done. First of the project we have done it with SBI InTouch, which is an instant issuance of personalized debit card from the SBI InTouch branches, which we have rolled out recently along with our partners, and the customer can get its debit card, photo debit card, after account opening within 10 minutes of time. Another one is we are part of the India NID project as well. In India, the card bureaus who are using or who are actually printing the cards for the different banks and financial institutions, they are using our big systems. India NID project phase 1 under RGI was implemented. Delhi government driving license project was done by our machines. Several RSBI projects are running on our systems. So if you see the overall the growth of a card, because I want to capture that card element as well, apart from, I know that there has been a lot of discussion on cash to credit card or debit card or card to a mobile, but the card is going to be a very important factor. If you see the 2007 data, the cash transactions were 91% of the total transactions. But in 2007, which is expected, it's going to be about 78%. That means there is a significant decline in cash transactions, and there is a significant increase in the credit or in fact the card transactions. The reason is that there are a couple of key drivers. One of the drivers is the consumer behavior. The consumer are comfortable to use the credit or debit cards, or whether it's a post transactions or e-commerce transactions. Another one is the government vision for financial inclusion, and that is the key, because on the first day, as Mr. Jain mentioned, on the first day 1.84 crores cards were issued. So there is a huge and very strong push from the government and RBI to convert the cash transactions into a card transactions. It's a little bit data. Very quickly, I just want to throw. No doubt the India card circulation to double in the next 5 years. Will be ranked 5th largest country by 2017. And the debit card is going to be the main card, card vertical in the entire card ecosystem. What is instant issuance, which we capture? The instant issuance is any issuance of a permanent and personalized card, whether it's a debit, credit, prepaid, gift card or loyalty, whether it's an emergency card, whether it's a social benefit card or a financial inclusion card, Magistrate, EMV, chip and pay, whatever it is, we can issue card instantly. Where? Now, the card can be issued from the different branches, can be issued VC location, retail shops, corporates. And we are successfully delivering some of the social benefit programs globally, whether it's a healthcare insurance banking program, e-governance initiatives, financial inclusion. We are talking in Indonesia as well. Here we are going to be part of that. DBT program where we can issue a card instantly, which is personalized, so the direct benefit transfer can be done. Now, what is our approach to Jan Dhan Yojana, which is a flagship project of Government of India, Ministry of Finance, and they are, a proposed roadmap. The most important challenge out here today is that there is a huge backlog of RuPay card issuance. The accounts are already open. RuPay cards have not been issued to the card holders. So there is a huge backlog in the bank, and there is a challenge on how to meet that gap in between account opening and RuPay card issuance. The first thing which we would like to recommend as an industry player, that central issuance, which is already there in place, where cards are coming from the card bureaus, is going to be a strongly recommended solution to clear the backlog. That is one. Another one is the unsecured distributed issuance. Why I'm saying unsecured, I would like to highlight in a couple of minutes. But distributed issuance means that you get the RuPay card from the card bureaus and print the name on the card. That's it. This is a distributed issuance, whether you can issue from the branches, you can issue from the regional offices, you can issue from your zonal offices. But why is it unsecured? Because it is not online. It is not fully personalized, integrated with your core banking system or your debit card management system or switch. It is just a printing a name on the card. That's why I'm calling it unsecured. But yes, this is one of the options to clear the backlog. That is for sure. No tracking of the production or duplicate or rejected cards. Possibility of a mismatch. Ajay Kumar's name can be printed on Rajesh Kumar's card. Maybe a possibility, because there is a lot of manual intervention. Because someone has to see the Excel sheet to print the name on the card. So there might be a mismatch error as well. EMV rollout not possible. Tomorrow, if financial inclusion comes with the EMV chip and pin rollout, and that is not possible if you just put the name on the card. That means, I'm not saying that it cannot clear the backlog. It can clear the backlog, but use the financial, secure, compliant systems which can print the name on the RuPay card in phase 1, but in phase 2, it can issue a secured card, personalized secured card from the branch itself. And this is the third option, where your card management system or core banking system is integrated with the software which can issue card instantly, and where the printer itself is integrated in the same line. That means it's a fully personalized card. You don't have to print the name on the RuPay card. It is fully personalized, where data is pulling from the card, the CBS, to the card machine to print the data, or it can encrypt the data as well in the MAC strip or chip. There are three components of issuance. There are three pillars. One of the pillars is enhanced consumer experience, secure issuance, and improved portfolio performance. I don't want to touch upon two, but I want to touch upon the secure issuance, because that is a critical part. RBI has told many times that cards should be issued under the security or under the secure manner. It should not be, that card should not be issued in an unsecured manner. So the compliances or the standards should be taken into consideration while issuing a RuPay cards or any other card, whether debit, credit, or any other association cards in that. We provide fully integrated solutions whether it's big systems or small systems, software, supply, service, the data card. Yes, it's a noble cause that Pradhan Mantri launched Jan Dhan Yojana, and data card is committed to support Government of India's prestigious Jan Dhan Yojana project, and would like to support and contribute to clear the backlog of these cards as soon as possible. This small video would like to control. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. By mistake, I forgot to invite one key speaker who is actually one of the most important stakeholders in this industry of banking. With due apologies and with due permission of Bansal sir, I would like to invite Mr. Abu George on stage. Mr. Abu George from Federal Bank. So we invite you on stage as the regional head and assistant general manager. A round of applause for Mr. Abu George. Now hand over the session to Mr. Saudi.
Thanks, friends. We have one more industry presentation, two more industry presentations rather. So my friend Mr. Sanjeev Shreya says that he is willing to sacrifice his part of the presentation for the sake of time. So I request our third friend, Rahul Modi, to okay. Thank you so much. So thanks in the interest of time and maybe preferably a more discussion after the thing. So let's maybe I'll not take the initiative because I happen to chair the session or moderate the session. So let me not take most of the time. Let me see, depending on the time, I'll talk about it. But friends, as you realize that topic is banking the unbanked, financial inclusion through direct benefit transfer and unbanked. So think about it globally. If you look at any kind of a viable financial inclusion or a business correspondent model, there has to be an anchor customer. Whether you name Brazil, you name South Africa, whether it is Colombia, any country, there is something called an anchor customer. What do I mean by that? What I mean is that if somebody has to put out an agent somewhere, how does the financial institution provider know whether there is money coming in there or not? Either it has to wait for the people to start sending money and receiving money there, and people in turn don't send or receive money there because they're not sure if the agent is there. So the viability issue. So globally, if you realize, and that's what exactly is happening in India, that if this entire financial inclusion story has to really become a business option or a viable option, the only way is that, I mean, I will not focus on the government as much right now, but focus on business, is that there has to be the government of India or the state government who's an assured customer for a particular set of transactions every month, month on month, month after month, and the government actually provides some kind of an incentive or a reimbursement for that. You know, so you're already reading in the papers. So you start looking at that 2% as one of the things and imagining the 3 lakh crores which the government has a potential to transfer every year. The 3 lakh crores is just government of India. I'm not even talking about state governments. 3 lakh crores. So even if you take it into phases and talk about 1 lakh crores, which could start happening as early as next year. Look at there is 2,000 crores worth of revenues waiting for the industry, so to say, right? And all of you are critical stakeholders. So with this introduction, I'll talk about Aadhaar later. I request my friend Mr. Pullard, from the largest banks in the country, to tell us what is his view on direct benefit transfer and obviously Aadhaar.
Thank you, Basu sir, and very good afternoon, gentlemen and ladies. I'm from PNB, and as a banker, the first thing what a banker sees in any profession or any job is the viability. That is one thing is there, because if anything is not economically viable, it cannot be sustainable, and anything which is not sustainable, that means the thing is main words only, and it cannot be translated in the real business over a larger time. So we had been in banking industry saying that there had been talk of DBT. There were certain issues regarding DBT, and there were certain disputes taking place between the banks and the interministerial issues were there. So what we realized over past few years, that although this is a very attractive and lucrative opportunity for the banks to work and financial inclusion, but somehow it lost meaning, financial inclusion, because whatever was promised was not coming through automatically. So this was the one issue which always haunted the banking industry over a period of time, and it kept on making second thought for the banking industry. But when we think about banking for the bank, yes, there cannot be any second thought. I must acknowledge this thing, that every person living in our country should have access to the banking, but then he should have money to transact with. We have opened large number of accounts, and my fellow bankers might be sitting with me, would agree with me, that most of those accounts are lying dormant. They are not having any balance in those accounts. Where from the money will come? They don't have money. And if the direct benefit transfer or whatever the thing was promised over a period of time does not flow into those accounts will again lose their sheen, and they will not be the reality over a period of time. We have opened under Jan Dhan Yojana large number of accounts, and bankers have already reached about a figure of about 4 crores. And but to keep those accounts live, yes, some money should come. There are two ways of putting money in those accounts. One is that is a saving habit, inculcating saving habit, and second is that remitting the money which is due to those people by the state government or the central government. As regards saving habit, that point has also got the notice of our new Jan Dhan Yojana through financial literacy. So banking, telling them the benefit of banking, and we sometimes, bankers as a banker has started feeling, had become complacent over a period of time, that everyone knows banking, that there is a bank account, there are certain benefits for that. But yes, it is true, until we are sitting in our cabin or bank 4 walls. But the moment we move out, we go into the fields, we go deep into the areas, hinterlands, we find that the people still are not conversant with the banking, and they have large doubts that they can open an account with the bank, and they can have a zero balance account with them, bank also. So this initiative, whatever PNB Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana has been with us. It has made the total industry vibrant. All people have started giving rethought to this banking. Aadhaar is there to support the eKYC and KYC issues. So moving ahead, we can find that the road, whatever our experiences, that out of whatever we have learned out of experience, past experiences, those things will not repeat. And once we start getting the due amount for the DBT, direct benefit transfer, and it is implemented wholeheartedly, not with the reservations, it's going to be a very success story. I'm very optimistic about all these things, and I request the people, the gentry sitting with me, to just keep in our mind that yes, we have to say yes to this initiative, but DBT and all those persons who can hear us, that they have to think and give the full thinking about all these things and provide us the due amount to us remuneration to paying service. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kullar. And as you rightly said, he's definitely upbeat, but obviously counting on the fact that the government should come out fully in support of a direct benefit transfer, and that sure is translating gradually and at a rapid scale. No formal announcement made as yet, but you could see it coming in the near future. So I don't want to say anything on that. Now I request, my dear colleague Ramesh Iyer, who has an extensive experience in Mahindra Finance, as opposed to definitely a banker's worldview. What is Mahindra Finance views on how direct benefit transfer, they see it panning out as a tool for enabling financial inclusion, as well as their outlook on how Aadhaar could be an enabler for the same.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, friends. Internally we always keep trying to find a definition for this word financial inclusion, since we are not a bank and we have different sets of challenges. And what we believe though is, financial inclusion is all about reaching credit to that deeper pocket at an affordable price. And the word affordable has to be affordable to both borrower and lender. And not just be on the loan side, but also offer investment products if they have surplus. And one of the biggest challenges that we found while trying to do this is we just don't know what is rural. We just keep using this word all the time internally to say, rural market. And then we start moving away from the real rural market in order to escape some fear of loss and move away from where really the rural is. I think the other thing also is about, do we have the right products to be able to give to these people there? We just want to go and give what we have. But I somehow think that this population needs products to be designed that suits their cash flows and their challenges. Let me give one very small example and which we are facing live today. We started off as a tractor finance company, went into big auto, tractors, all kinds of products. Finally, we are now also in financing three-wheelers. Large number, livelihood product because they all earn from these products. So there's huge attraction to get credit to buy such products. But the truth of the matter is that you and I sit in that three-wheeler and give them a 5 rupee and a 10 rupee coin or a 2 rupee coin. Now he comes and repays installments to me of 3,000, 4,000 rupees. 50% of it is in coins. Now how do I handle this coin? I go with this small bundle to a banker and banker says, sorry, I have no means to handle this coins. No, where are we? Bank accounts will be there. We will reach bank accounts to that place. We will provide a livelihood product to that customer. He is earning out of that product. He has to repay me my money. Now I am stuck with that money and it is all costing me every day. Unless I am able to transfer this money out from there into my central system and start using it again. Now another way to do it is to allow my branch to start disbursing locally and he starts giving loans in coins. Is that the solution? I am not sure. And then it comes along with everything else, whether it's an administrative cost, whether it's the control issues, audit issues, all kinds of issues come up. So I personally think definitely financial inclusion is an absolute necessity, but it's also a necessity that we design product and services and infrastructure that actually takes care of the customer needs first rather than the implementer's needs first. I always have this fear that, we as implementers want to make sure that we are at the right end, and we do everything, all designs, all processes, everything that suits us most rather than what the customer really is looking for. And may not be a right example, but if you were to really look at Moneylender as a financial inclusion entity, other than the cost at which he is doing the business, I think we need to institutionalize everything else that he does. He is locally present, he understands the challenges of customers, he is available 24 hours a day, he is able to give him money to the customer on the basis of his need, he is able to take back in the frequency the cash flow that suits the customer, he is willing to accept any currency out there, his cost is unacceptable. So if you bring in the element of affordability and institutionalize the process of customer handling, and then put it on a platform the way it can be handled, I would really think that's financial inclusion. And for an industry that we are in, where we lend 2,000 crore, almost everything in rural market and collect same amount, we would be very, very glad, sir, that if these instruments are implemented, because it would really make the whole system more authentic, it will make it more institutionalized, and I think it will bring about control, bring down the cost, and will still leave viability for everybody else out there. So I think I am for it, but we need to redesign, look at the implementation process a little more closely. Thank you, that was my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Iyer, but you put an interesting problem, and I'll later on, when we have time for discussions. Just to give you my background, I am on secondment in the government from the Reserve Bank of India, 2 decades of central banking, still continuing. So it's an interesting problem, which is the Reserve Bank currency management problem, and related to electronic payments. So depending on the time, we'll talk about it, but it's interesting to know that. So let's look at, a usual way of looking at it, with no offenses to my 2 colleagues from public sector bank, because I'm part of the government. People think it's, these are babus, they don't look at business. Maybe, and they will do it just because the government is asking them to do it, possibly. So let us listen to Mr. Abu George as a private banker, where, no business, no money, no business is kind of the mantra, which it should be. Only bankers are trying to make money, not to, to advantage. So I request Mr. Abu George to give his perspective.
Thank you and good afternoon. See, though I come from Federal Bank, a private sector bank, we not only believe in business, but social banking also. As you know, we've got half of our branches in Kerala and more than half in the rest part of the country. We do have our own strategies to go for more financial inclusion back in Kerala. As we have heard Mr. Jain today, this Jan Dhan Yojana, see, the main attraction, they are doing it not as a project, it's as a mission. The thing is that it will improve the habit of savings. And not only savings, the thing is that even after some time we'll be giving a credit and the insurance. So the rural masses of India, we have got more than 6 lakh villages. And if we really go into the villages we can definitely improve the savings habit of the people. And back in Kerala, especially we concentrate more in Kerala, and I'm in charge of Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh. In the villages of Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh, right now, though we don't have much branches, we do conduct camps, especially for this Jan Dhan Yojana, and we have opened many number of accounts. In fact, not as the number is when compared to State Bank of India or other banks here, we are much less, but we are all out to take the financial inclusion into a much better way. We strongly believe that this is very much required and we are fully for it. And please don't have a feeling that we are not only for business, we are for social banking also. So I consider this again as a mission, and we will take it forward for the upliftment of the rural masses. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. George. Now I come to my colleague on the right, Madam Abha Anand. She is in charge of government business, and one of the things obviously is the Union Bank being one of the largest banks in the country, in a network of more than 4,000 branches. Then listen to her, I will not call it a problem, the challenge of PM Jan Dhan and the number of accounts to be opened, access to be provided, and how beautifully Union Bank of India and her experience in her 3 decades of career as a banker, how she is, doing it in an excellent way.
Thank you, Mr. Bansal. Distinguished panelists and eminent ladies and gentlemen present over here for our Summit 2014. It's indeed a privilege for me to be here and to share my experience about both Jan Dhan Yojana as well as DBT. We have, as Mr. Bansal has pointed out, about 4,000 branches in the country, 3,940 to be precise, complemented by more than 6,600 ATMs. Our experience as related to Jan Dhan Yojana, which came about in great gusto in the morning, is that yes, we have done the unbelievable. It really symbolizes the saying that we often say, winners do not do different things, they do things differently. So just the other day, before 27th of August, I don't think any one of us could have ever visualized that we shall be opening 1.34 crores account for this scheme. And not only that, as what Mr. Anurag Jain said, the next day it was even better and they were able to cross 2 crores of accounts here. The challenges there are many. Our compliments, of course, to everyone led by the mission director and to all our banking facilitators, others who have helped us in this. Our compliments to all of them. But the challenges are also what all of us are deeply aware. We have to see that these accounts are consolidated, the RuPay cards are issued, the insurance aspect is taken care of, the pension needs, etc. have to be taken care of, the financial literacy has to be provided. But then it is these challenges which always make us emerge stronger. The government has some time before introduced Aadhaar, and we were able to provide Aadhaar to a large number of our unreached segments of the society. Then now we have come to Jan Dhan Yojana. Both these exercises are just facilitators for us to take us further in our mission of reaching the unreached. And this mission, I'm sure all of you who are present over here would agree that it is not now that we started it. It was there with us right from the beginning, one way or the other. So, as we start this, as both these as Jan Dhan Yojana ends, our mind is devoted, is transgressing to another aspect of the government's mission and goal, which is the DBT. Jan Dhan Yojana, Aadhaar, they will all help us in facilitating our DBT. DBT's main aim was to reach those beneficiaries in the least possible time with electronic means, the amounts that they were supposed to get without duplication, without divergence, in the minimum possible tenure. Earlier, when I used to visit the ministries, we were always besieged that so many drafts were lying inside the cupboards, in the drawers. The beneficiary would be coming again and again, asking the people, where is my money? He would be going to his district level people, and the result was the money, the fund would reach him but at a time when it may perhaps be too late for it. DBT is facilitating it. 26 schemes are covered under this, 43 districts are covered under this. We have already started the process in the banks about going about it. We are reaching in reality those who are the unreached with the help of all the schemes which the government is now bringing. The challenges that we face in DBT are, of course, number one, opening of the savings bank account. Number two, getting the Aadhaar numbers linked. Number three, ensuring technological support. Number four, ensuring proper coordination between the state and the central government agencies. One thing we are also sure about, that we are all die-hard optimists. If we can open more than 4 crores of savings bank account of the lower income group and those who have not been covered till now, if we can do that as an industry, I'm sure we shall one day be able to reach all those people, all those beneficiaries who are covered under the schemes provided by the direct benefit transfer entry introduced by the government. With full optimism on this score and with the confidence that every day that we are spending is being spent on the DBT front in taking it forward like so many other schemes of the government, we will reach one day when everyone who is linked, who is not able to access the banking system also, will be able to have his funds with him or her in the least possible time and making full use of the funds which were really his own and not having reached them. So with these words, I would like to sum up my delivery on this, brief delivery on this. And with one Urdu couplet, sir, if you would forward to me. Sure. मंजिलें उन्हीं को मिलती हैं, मंजिलें उन्हीं को मिलती हैं जिनके सपनों में जान होती है। मंजिलें उन्हीं को मिलती हैं जिनके सपनों में जान होती है। पंखों से कुछ हासिल नहीं होता, हौसलों की उड़ान।
Beautiful. That sums up the spirit of this summit and the initiatives of the government. And this is good scenario that we see with the government and the industry coming together to make a difference. So this is a good thing with all my colleagues from the industry there. So, friends, at this stage, I'll just spend 5 minutes on. I'm sure you know what Aadhaar is before I go on to my colleague, Mr. Bhotani. And then we'll have a discussion on the industry, obviously is the most critical component for all of this to work. All of you have to make it work. Most of the people sitting on this side, except my 3 colleagues, can make it happen only if we are together in it. We can't do it first hand. So on Aadhaar, as you know, there's a little discussion on how many people have Aadhaar. As in the morning today, 67.8 crore people have a unique 12-digit number. Which means, I don't know how many of you in this room have a number. If you don't mind, can everybody who has the Aadhaar number raise their hands? Not bad. Thank you. So Delhi is one. See, this was another reason to know how many in the financial industry, sector industry have Aadhaar. Because Aadhaar saturation, according to our statistics, if the denominator 2011 census, it is 100% in Delhi. So it's gratifying. There's somebody like me who has been there for 5 years. Zero number. Yeah, thanks to good endowment agencies. So this is where it is. So with 67.8. Now what does it translate into in context of DBT? See, as we discussed, all of this is just a part of a critical pillar of where the government wants to go or the economy should go. It's not just the government. Because I don't want to go into sociology of things, but please remember, if the gap between the haves and the have-nots keeps on increasing, we're not going anywhere. We could be tomorrow a country which is driven with internal strife, that 1% of people earn 80% of the income. So that's not going anywhere. So there has to be an agenda, the inclusive agenda, where there is more distribution and again, this is more economics. But as more and more people participate in the economy, the formal economy, it leads to more economic growth. That's what it is. So the agenda is that if 40% people in India didn't have an ID, they couldn't get a bank account, they couldn't get an insurance, they couldn't get a micro SIP, they couldn't remit money. So they have to, go to various other means to be able to do that, put a money under the pillow or do other things. This was a challenge which the Government of India addressed by setting up the UIDAI in 2009, and from there we have come to this. Now today, what is that 67.8 crore people can do? This is a question I'm sure which passes through the mind of some of you, especially you belong to the top 1 or 2% of people economically. Do you think there is any use for the number for any of you today? You don't mind? Can anybody tell me one simple, how can it make your life simpler today? I don't know. Sorry? Enabler, agreed. But can it make your life simpler today? Sure. Yeah. As sir said, a simple example is, I'm sure half of you at least remember your Aadhaar number, have it in your mobile or in your wallet. That's the best way is store it in your mobile. Or put a slip of paper and store it in your wallet or in the purse.
New application of iPhone will enable us to put it in the phone.
Yeah, in the phone also. iPhone. So today you can go to all 100,000 branches of a bank, walk in out here with just that number and open an instant account. The bank will not ask you for any ID, photocopy, any address photocopy, any photograph. So you are now a part of Digital India. 67.8 crore people are a part of Digital India family today, and 6 lakh people are being added to this family every day today. And the government has mandated us that by 2015, at least 100 crore people will have Aadhaar number. This is where we are going. So from a financial sector perspective, where it takes us is that today again 67.8 crore people can prove who they are and do a financial transaction without any form factor, tokenless. So what do you mean is, I can give my Aadhaar number and put my fingerprint or iris and withdraw money, remit money, deposit money. That's the power of this. Now this coupled with the current, the PMJDY, where it takes us is that obviously there is a RuPay card which will get issued so that the people can access another channel other than a branch, that's an ATM. But till that time, where all the gap between the 4 crore accounts opened and the card, the industry is obviously working hard and the banks are working hard. Today these people, the 4 crore people out of which my sense is at least 2 to 2.5 crore people, going by 55% saturation, have an Aadhaar number today, which means these 2.5 crore people can instantly start operating their account today without having to wait for the card or the PIN to arrive, which will obviously happen. All my colleagues are working towards it. So this is what I wanted to say, and every month these days, at least 40 lakh people, or let me put it in a different way, 1.5 lakh people are withdrawing their NREGA or pensions across the country using just the number and the fingerprint. So this is where we are, and that is why it becomes an enabler. So that the leaking pipe of the Government of India, the fiscal deficit issues that the government faces, get plugged, and there are estimates ranging from 20,000 crores, 30,000 crores to 40,000 crores saving, which can come to the economy because of Aadhaar, the direct benefit transfer, the banks, and all the partners sitting here. So with this, one of the critical partners that we have is Mr. Bhutani, and then we'll have a discussion, who is a senior consultant with CSE governance, which has perhaps the one entity which has the largest field presence. So I would request his views on this.
Thank you, Mr. Sir. It's an opportunity which has been given to me to speak over here before the eminent bankers as well as the stakeholders. Actually, before I touch to the issues what I am facing at the ground level, I would like to say that CSE governance, we are working in the 3 layers. CSE governance at the top, and we are working through these SCS, means Service Center Agencies, which are appointed by the respective state government agencies, and with the VND, which is working under him, because they are appointed by the ultimately SCS, they are at the ground level. So I have visited at many places to see what are the exact problems, because it's a VND who is facing the actual problems, and rather he is the only person, he is from that village, and he reposes the trust of the people over there. For that reason, it is called the major level entrepreneur. Since he is already providing G2C and B2C service, particularly at all the CSC centers, and besides this, we are also providing them this banking services, insurance, this Aadhaar card system saving over there, as well as this education services. Now, we are having the network of 1.40 lakh CSCs across the countries. Earlier, our model was that against every 6 village there was one CSC. Now the position is that after every 5 village we are having the CSC. Now we have done the rollout of the banking software only up to the 18,000 places. What is the reason behind it? Why we could not move further? When I joined over here after retirement from the banking life, so I thought it's very easy just to provide a, because every CSC is having the infrastructure, every CSC is having the laptop is there, or desktop is there, and everything is there. But he was not having the micro ATMs. This one biometric device. This may get cost only 3,000 rupees. Just we have to provide him that only, then he can start the banking work. But when we went at the ground level, the banking system, they came out with the system of SSA, means sub-service area approach. Now in the country, we are having 640 districts. Let these districts be divided among all the banks. So this means our SCA, Service Center Agency, particularly the person who was here, he will be struggling only with the one bank only. Now in the same district, there are many banks, so about 8 to 10 banks are there. He will deploy the resources to understand the system of the one bank, because the problems come only at the link branches. They are not aware of the process involved. They are not aware what the system is. How to approve the customer account. Customer account has been opened and they are not aware. Because the sensitization at the ground level has not been done. That is the main problem. Link branches have to be taught about it. Moreover, just opening the account is not sufficient. What will happen after 26th of January? Because now the people, they are deploying, many companies, many DCs are coming up just for the, because 20 rupees amount is to be paid for opening account. What will happen after saturation? They have to sustain themselves only because of transaction. So this means transaction value can be done only by 2 ways. Either they have to calculate the average of the saving. Number 2, either from the DBT. DBT government is doing, that is true. But something should come from his own side for the sustainability. Means that G2C and B2C services and other services are required to be provided to him to make them sustainable. Because we know only BC model is not sustainable for him. This has proven. This means that he has to come to the CSC ecosystem so that he will get these services. The first issue which I talked to you about the link branches problem, because they thought that it is a charity, not a business. So a lot of time was wasted just to make them understand. Sometimes what happens, since they are not aware, then we have to go to their head of people and talk to them at the lower level branch, then they will start to be accountable. So these are the issues. Number second issue was the connectivity. Because most of the people, they are either working on the VSAT, this one dongle, or WiMAX, but some of the places there is no network at all. So the connectivity issue that hampered us on moving further. And the next issue came about the support from the bank. So the customer is sitting before the VLE. He is working, opening the customer, and suddenly the system was not operated. What he has to do? He should be given proper support at the same time. This means that there should be support mechanism from every bank. Either their common support system should be designed at the state level so that he may talk to them and get people to support. Otherwise, what will happen? He will get himself frustrated. Customer will go, he will say, yeah, what your system is, what the bank is providing. So this will be unnecessarily deteriorate the position of the bank as well as that of the VLE. So these are the problems which we face at the event, particularly ground level. At the technology support, that enhancing server. Now what has happened? After the introduction of the Prime Minister Jan Dhan Yojana, number of the accounts were opened. My colleague said, even Lord Jansen also told that about 4 crores accounts have been opened. How these have been opened? What should be the level of the server? How many transactions are hitting the server? So this means that technology part has come into play just to enhance the capability of the server so as to meet the total objective. At the end, I will say that that the SSA approach particularly, because we are facing a lot of struggle, 1.46 CSCs and only 80,000 working. So this means we have to do something for the remaining rest of the CSC, which are where we have not been able to go over there, where we have not been able to touch over there. SSA approach has to be dispensed with, and it should come out only with that area. Let the banker, lead bank over there, he may decide which bank he has to do, and let the every CSC in that particular district, particularly Gram Panchayat and the remaining areas, there should be one model, one desktop over there, means one, so that it should be interoperable. Every customer can go to any place and get the payment. Otherwise, we are restricting himself only to go to the banker, that banker only, and to maintain the account of that banker only. Suppose he is having the account of the other, in case Aadhaar system is not there, then he is not in a position to take the payment. So we are restricting him to that place. Let it be made as an interoperable. Ultimately, time will come. All these accounts, all this in the bank account will be made interoperable, and then it will be more sustainable for that also for doing the transaction. In my opinion, had this issue been tucked in view, we would have not opened only 4 crore as on yesterday, we would have done much more, 6 or 7 crore we could have reached over here because of these ground level problems. So it's my request that all the bankers are sitting over there, that this issue be taken into account, and so that we may also be a part of the mission of the Government of India for making this Dhan Yojana as a success. Thank you, sir.
For your really cutting edge issues that you highlighted. And obviously, if it is not interoperable, it doesn't work. Because if you could have an account with Union Bank and go only to a Union Bank ATM, I don't know how many of us have used an ATM, right? Similar is the case that if the account can only be operated at the outlet of a BC of a particular bank, then neither will that outlet be viable, and neither will the person have surety that the person, he or she, can go to any outlet and transact. And obviously CSC is a great enabler for that. So with this, friends, I request my colleague Sanjeev Shayal to give us a more business perspective of things coming from our dear colleague Abu Jardi gave a perspective. So let's listen to him on what is the real business case for the industry.
Thank you, Rajesh. Good afternoon, friends. I've been hearing the session in the morning, and we had some great insights coming from Mr. Jain and from Dinesh Tyagi. And I've been doing some numbers and maths. So first of all, I'd like to say that I've been personally involved in the Aadhaar, in the whole Aadhaar program ever since day one. So therefore, Rajesh and we've been working quite closely together. And what struck me as different from Aadhaar, so first of all, I think the important point to understand is that we as Indians have done something that no other country has done. And I don't think that there are many nations with 120 crores people who will be able to do it again. So I think we should be all very, very proud that we are sitting today in Dhaka, where an Aadhaar program is enrolling or has enrolled up to 1 million people a day. I've made several presentations in Europe, and people are just amazed at the level of technology that has been put into place by Aadhaar to give a digital ID. All it means to identify yourself to 630 million or 70 crore people already. Now, we can learn another lesson from Aadhaar. See, I remember the early days when the plan was how do we create an enrollment ecosystem. So at that day, when the Aadhaar was being started up, there was no ecosystem to do the massive enrollment that was required. And what UIT did at that time was to involve the industry. So they created a new animal called an enrollment agent. And they said, okay, there is a price that we will pay, or somebody will pay, the registrar will pay 40 rupees, 50 rupees. So you go and do your own math and you invest. At that time, more than 40,000 outlets or let's say devices were put by private companies, 200 of them, and they created an ecosystem which could allow, let's say, 10 lakh enrollments a day. And that's the real success of the Aadhaar ecosystem, which was able to create a new ecosystem partner from scratch in 2 to 3 months' time and reach that mechanism. Now today, when we are faced with this challenge for the PMJDY, I think there is a need for the bankers to look at a similar model, that what can we do to outsource and bring industry participation. Can we invite 100 companies, 200 companies, and outsource to them some tasks for which they are actually equipped to do? So let me give an example. Let's say all the banks would say that, okay, we are willing to outsource 3 important tasks: Aadhaar seeding, bank account opening using Aadhaar, and of course the issue of cards. So I, as an entrepreneur, would make an investment making a mathematics that if I install a machine or equipment worth 50,000 rupees on the field, how much money can I make per day? And how much machines do we need? We need 30,000 machines to be implemented to do 15 lakh accounts a day. Now the problem today is that we have to look at a different approach. We cannot have the classical approach where we continue to expect either customers to come to the bank branches and try to open an account using Aadhaar. Aadhaar technologically we can open an account, but the equipment, the mechanism is not available in the field. And the banks, unfortunately, are still reticent. They have not placed orders to buy equipment which is Aadhaar and RuPay compatible in the field, and then to deploy those machines. So my suggestion and my request is that let the banks outsource these models, fix a tariff, do an auction, whatever else you need, and invite companies like was done by Aadhaar, create a agency who can do this on a sweep mode, and a typical station can do 50, 60, even 100 accounts a day. And you can imagine that if you are having 20,000 such stations operating on a sweep mode, you can actually do 200,000 or 300,000 or 2 million accounts a day if you do the math, and you will have a sweep mode operating. So this is one suggestion, and I think even if we invite all the EAs who are the past EAs of the Aadhaar to participate in such a rollout, the T3 and 4 agencies and other, they are more than happy. They would be more than happy to take up this. Number 2, I think the banks need to change their thinking regarding the whole concept of how and why we are opening this account. Okay, the sociological aspect has been discussed in the morning and recently, but I would even like to bring a parallel from the telecom world. In 1999, we all remember that we used to pay 14 rupees a minute or 16 rupees a minute to receive calls. And the reason was that at that time, the telecom operators, like banks today, are trying to find a business case at the upper end of the spectrum. Today, the banks pay. At that time, the telecom companies were paying money to the technology companies to open an account irrespective of its usage. Later, the telecom companies told the Ericssons and Nokias of the world, no, I'm not going to pay you money just to open an account. You are going to be paid either per transaction or if the account is in use. And the reason, and what happened was, okay, it's a change of model. So let the banks discuss this with the technology providers and actually pay based on usage. And this will completely change the thought process of banks, that, even if there is more accounts open which are dormant for the moment, no problem. But we have to create supply in the market. Because once we create supply in the market, people will actually use the bank account. The third thing is that the last mile technology, the last mile hardware. So I've done some simple maths. Let's say that a machine costs 20,000 rupees at the last mile, which is APS, DBT, RuPay, EMB, everything compliant, interoperable, all of that. And we need 300,000 of such machines. So it's 600 crores. Now, if 600 crores of investment can bring 300,000 machines on the field, I'm sure that together the 30 banks can put this kind of money just by the fact that if DBT were to arrive, 6,000 crores a year is the revenue that the banks would earn, as Mr. Bansal has explained. Now, the second problem that I'm hearing from banks is that, now they have to pay the BC 5,000 rupees per month. The question today is that I think if the 2% money can flow directly to the BC, so let's do a math. If 6,000 crores you divide by 600,000 BCs, it is 1 lakh rupees per BC per year. So 8,000 rupees that BC can earn just from the DBT transaction once it is fully implemented. And we are not even discussing the other revenue streams that the BC can make. But what he needs is a rich device, a tablet, a nice terminal, a robust device. By saving 2,000, 3,000 rupees at the end user device, we are compromising the ability of the BC to actually deliver more services and become more economically viable. So today, I think there is a need, this JDY scheme, PM JDY scheme. In fact, I'm privileged. I met the PM during the launch, and we had a discussion on the fact that can these BCs become rural entrepreneurs? And I said, why do we need a bank sevak? Why not a Gram Udyami? And he said, yes, this is a great idea. Now turn him into an entrepreneur, because if he becomes an entrepreneur in his mind, he is going to look at more services and create, relationships with the telecom operator, with the fertilizer companies, with the FMCG companies, and become their extended arm in the village, and generate more and more revenue for himself. So I think there is a need for the industry, the banks, the technology companies at every end to sit together and rework the strategy for scaling up the last mile, the services aspect. And I'm pretty much sure that the success that we have seen in Aadhaar, the fact that from 0 to 1 million a day, you could achieve in 2 months of time or 3 months of time, that can be replicated in PMJDY. Thank you.
Thanks, Sanjeev. So before we end the session, as there is an old saying that in India, those who are more familiar with the cooperative movement, we said cooperatives are dead. So taking a listing from the king is dead, but long live the king. So we have to realize that cooperation is not dead, and definitely with our friends from Adarsh Cooperative Society, we have to understand that the cooperative society, the critical role that they play, reaching out to nearly every household, and in the calculation which we do sitting here in Delhi, doesn't really take that into account, is a concern. So I would request Mr. Modi to speak about how they are playing a critical role.
Good afternoon, respected panelists and all the ladies and gentlemen present at this forum. Thank you very much for taking the cooperative movement. Cooperative movement, yes, it's very important for the measure of financial inclusion. It has been right from the very beginning a very important step since the independence India. Cooperative is like working together for the mutual benefit of people working in a particular region. Like what Adarsh created, it was formed in 1999 with the vision of cooperation to bring in all the unbanked people to cover and to provide them banking facilities so that they can inculcate saving habits. And through those measures, we have like more than 1 lakh agents working across 800 branches pan-India to provide financial services to their respective customers and to their respective localities. Like the session, banking the unbanked through DBT, direct benefits transfer. Direct benefit transfer, it was installed, it was launched by the government so that people who live in rural areas can get the facility, can get their subsidies, that can get their benefits directly to their bank account without any proliferation, without any duplication, without any diversions. And rightly what Mr. Hunnar mentioned in the initial panel discussion, that any person who resides in the rural area needs two things: where his income will be generated or where he will be popping up the money into the account. One through his savings, where due to lack of accessibility, lack of resources of any saving habits, due to he is not able to save, and also the second medium being a direct benefit transfer. So these two mediums are very important for a rural person living in any sort of village to understand that by these two he can operate a saving account, he can inculcate and motivate his saving habits. So DBT, with the initiative launched by Pradhan Mantri, our respected Shri Narendra Modi, with the vision of Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, it was the initiative and the intervention of government so that DBT, the benefits, reaches to the rurals, reaches to the people without any diversions. Again, with the use of Aadhaar, like what we have mentioned, we have been successfully rolled out of Aadhaar cards, which can, in the future, with the intervention of technology, can work as an e-KYC. What major problem lies in the rural that people don't have a respective KYC or they lack respective KYC documents, identification documents, for which is also one of the major that they are not able to operate any bank account or they are not able to open any bank account. So with the e-KYC, with the use of digitization, with the use of technology through e-KYC, through linking the Aadhaar card, their respective biometric profiling can be done, their KYC can be generated through UITI, and they can easily get an account open. But having said that, as to what Mr. Iyer mentioned in his earlier discussion, that there has to be suitable infrastructure, there has to be suitable technique, there has to be suitable training and awareness programs, so that the people or the business correspondents who are developing this model need to understand as to how it will benefit and how it will favor them in a much more suitable situation. So, as a initiative of this financial inclusion and reaching to the unbanked people providing banking services, we all have to get together in any form, right from the banks to the private institutions to the companies and to the normal public, all to the business correspondents, to make this initiative to provide the banking services to the unbanked people so that they can save their habits and they can spend their living in a better India and with a better future. So we'll all have to come together in any form, be it completing all those challenges, all those technological standards, or by any sort of training awareness measures. And that is only this initiative which looks tough at this point in time will be able to possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Modi. So unless somebody has a very pressing questions, friends, can we end the session if somebody, so there is no pressing. So on this optimism, yeah.
Sir, I will request whether UID can any company have a web integration whereby the one-time identification, even on a chargeable basis, can be done as a free transparent policy for any company, okay, who can qualify. Because right now when we approach, they say only you come to banks, only banks will, only certain banks will, like that. Okay. So if that can be done, it is good. Sir, to the banking group, I would like to say that the banks have their CBS in the place. If on ISO 853, which is a normal ATM switch protocol also, if any private company wants to do a kind of a integration, whether the banks would be happy to do it, right? Okay, even on a chargeable and screening basis. Okay. And whether CSC can share all the lists that they have, okay, of 1,20,000 or whatever. Okay. Then perhaps I think the private enterprise can run across. Okay, if these three are made available freely and transparently. Okay, maybe much before the time.
Right. So thanks for that. It's a good question. To answer the UID question, I am not sure how the communication did go wrong at our end. Today there are 190 companies who are integrated, including banks, private companies, who are integrated with us to use our services. We are a platform available for public, private, state government, anybody, as long as you fulfill certain criteria. As we say, we are like the iOS of iPad and iPhone, that you could do, play a game there, or use a science fiction, this thing, or play a movie. So it is fully integrated.
190 have been already authorized, and therefore there is no room for the next. That's what they say.
No, so I will leave my card with you. You be rest assured that if you fulfill the criteria, it's definitely not. So I leave it to Ava ma'am to answer the question on 8583.
So we will have to take it to our DIT. for your request. It's a policy decision, it will be taken care of.
Can we
But
across
yes, yeah.
the banks?
Another fair point.
It's a very fair point, and we take note of it, and we'll move it also forward, and let's see what we can do about it. We'll definitely be on the proactive side for it.
So, Raisa, if I can answer, I think it's available on the website primarily.
It's available on the website. In case you find it, you are most welcome to come to our office and provide a list.
Okay. So with this, I think there is note of optimism where right from the cooperatives to the industry to the government and the banking sector, private and public, and microfinance sector coming together. I think with this optimism, we'll end the session. Thanks all of you, and for the organizers to inviting on behalf of my co-panelists.
Sir, industry is ready. आप मौका तो दीजिए. Industry तैयार है.
So banking is already showing the way.
Thank you very much, sir. I request for a ceremony of memento giving. So I request our moderator, Shri Rajesh Bansal, Assistant Director General UID Delhi, to please present mementos to our key speakers. And we'll start with the speaker, Mr. Ramesh Iyer, Managing Director, Managing Manager of Finance. Ma'am Abha Anand, Deputy General Manager, Union Bank of India. Mr. Abu George, AGM and Regional Head, Federal Bank. Shri Sanjeev Shriya, Managing Director, Smart Chip and Syscom Corporation. Shri Rahul Modi, Managing Director, Adarsh Credit Cooperative Society Limited. Shri R.K. Bhutani, Senior Consultant, CSC E-Governance Services Limited. And Mr. Ajay Kumar, Head of Marketing, South Asia, Data Card Group. I hope I have not missed anybody. Thank you. I request a group photo. Yeah. I'm Ms. Kular Saab from Punjab National Bank. Thank you very much, sir. A request for a group photo from all the eminent speakers. And I request Dr. Ravi Gupta to present a memento to Bansal Saab. And we are very thankful, sir, for accepting our request to moderating this event, this session.